and I am a nerd, and you are here today at the October 2014 TABS 3 Virtual User Group meeting from Attorney Computer Systems. I'm here today with Mary Jo, and we are going to talk about account information in GL. That's a new feature in version 17. Mary Jo is going to show you how that works and talk about that. And I'm going to talk about recapping your hours when you're entering fees and looking at that outside of the fee entry process. But before we get started on that, let's take a look at this. This is our GoToWebinar control panel. And I must not be showing my screen because I'm looking at Mary Jo's screen and it's not changing like mine. Here we go. There we go. And so this is our GoToWebinar control panel. This is how we control the experience, but most of the time you simply want to click this button here that looks like an arrow pointing to the right. That means get this big thing out of the way. It's probably covering up your screen, probably covering up parts that you want to see. So if you click this button that looks like an arrow pointing to the right, it will move this big thing out of the way. And when that happens, this button will change to an arrow that looks more like it's pointing to the left. And clicking it again will cause this to slide back into focus. Why would you want it to slide back into focus? Well, of course, we all know that if you're shy and you have a question, you're going to type it right here. You're going to remember to hit the send button. And Leanne, our humble yet illuminated moderator, will illuminate us to the fact that you have a question. She'll interrupt Mary Jo or myself, let us know what your question is, and we will answer it. Now, keep typing questions here as we are answering if there are follow-up questions or if we are headed down the wrong path. And Leanne will keep monitoring that. Keep remembering, of course, to hit send as well. And Leanne will keep interjecting those comments as we're answering your questions. So don't let us answer the wrong question. If you catch us doing that, let us know where we've gotten off track. If you are not shy and you have a question, you can always press this button that looks like a hand with an arrow pointing upwards in front of it. That means raise your hand. Leanne will do the same thing. She will interrupt Mary Jo or myself at the opportune time, and she will unmute you if you've raised your hand, and you can ask your own question. Now that line of communication, that open channel, will remain open until we're done answering your question. So again, if we're headed down the wrong path or if you have follow-up questions, just continue talking to us. It will be a two-way conversation until we're done answering your question, at which time we will mute you back up so you can continue eating lunch. So without any further ado, I'm going to press all the right magic buttons to get out of here and go back to where Mary Jo can tell you all about the account information screen in General Ledger. Mary Jo?
Okay. I know that we've covered this topic probably briefly when we were going through all the new features of version 17. But today I'm hoping to go in a little bit more detail, and now that you've actually had a chance to play with the program a little bit, it might be a little more relevant than when back when we were saying what it was going to happen when you got version 17. So in General Ledger, we had our chart of accounts over here that was totally revamped. And back before version 17, we had all the account information and everything was stored in that account when you created it in the chart of accounts. Now they've kind of split that information apart, so you're creating your chart, you're creating that account, saying whether or not it goes on the balance sheet or on the detail view or the summary view. But they've also then split apart where you set your budgets and where the information about the account actually is. So I do not have the mouse.
You do not have the mouse?
Nope, I do not have the mouse.
Okay.
I guess I could. You want to try it? Or?
Yep, keep talking. Hold on.
Okay. So we have an icon that is separate over here for the account information in the upper right-hand corner, and then our chart is over in the upper left-hand corner. So, oh, I think I got it, Paul. There we go.
You got it.
I got it. All right. So in the account information, all of our accounts that we have created will be in here in our chart, and this looks just like the new chart now. And I'm going to just go down to an expense account here. We'll go to dues and memberships. And this is where you can see some new information. we actually can tell it which columns we want to see now, where before you just had the balances for, I believe, the last 3 years. Well, now, because the years don't fall off, we actually can go back farther. So in this instance, this is sample data, so I do only have 2 years showing, but you will have a list of all the years here as you go forward that you can just choose which columns you want to compare. So I can put 2013 and I can put 2014. And of course, I pick an account that has nothing. So let me go back and do, I think we were in salaries, and I'm sure that they have something. Let's go in here. All right, 2013 still doesn't have any data, but we do have some in 2014, and then what our difference is and so on. But you can compare columns, and then you can say the difference, or you can compare years, whatever you want here. So this is new. You also have a separate tab for budgets. So now, again, I can show the different years' budgets. So if I did 2013, I could say what was the actual or what was the budget. And again, I don't have any data in this one for test data. But then also for 14, I can say whether I want to see the budget or whatever actual as I go forward, and then the difference if I want to here. And again, you can just compare the two. Now to set the budget, we have the little set budgets right here. So if I wanted to change this, I could come in and I could either just manually put in a different amount each month, or I still have my allocate button where I can say monthly or yearly and let it split. So if I say partner salary is $100,000 yearly, it will then split that out monthly for me so that I have all of them at once and I know what I'm going to be paying them each month. If you can do that as far as monthly, or you can do a percentage, you can do an amount. You can raise those budgets up for the following year by a certain amount or a percentage. So all of that is still the same function you had. They've just broken it out into a separate tab that now I can see it right here. I'm not going to really save that. And then the other thing that is really cool is the budget report is right here. So I can get a comparison here for a certain account or all of the accounts, and my budget report is right on this screen, so I don't have to go try to do an income statement, include budget amounts. I actually have that right here on that screen. So that was a nice improvement. And now my favorite thing in the account information, you always have some entry that you've put in and you want to find it, or, and rather than drill through all the journal report or try to go into the journal window and sort by amount or whatever, if I know I posted something to this account and I just want to go find it for a date range, I can just come in here to the journal tab, put in that account number. I can search a current month, or I can put in custom or any of these preset time frames, and I can go look for that entry. So if I said for the current year, I would see all of the entries that have posted to this account that I have chosen. And then I can double click and I can drill down into that entry to make any corrections or changes. So this is great if you know you posted something to the wrong account and you want to go change it, and you don't want to have to sort through a lot of things. You can go right to that account and you can just double click and you can move this out and change it to the correct account. So that was a really nice addition in version 17. I am very quickly going to show you in the chart of accounts, when you are building your accounts and you add a new one or whatever you're going to do, I'm going to go down to some expense accounts because those always usually have some budgets here. And we'll do auto expense. We'll see if this has anything. But if I double click on that account, you see it brings up my account information that I can set up the account or put it on my report like I talked about. But if I right click on this column, I can actually get into account information from here. The only difference between this screen and the screen that I was on before going directly into the account information icon is that I can't make changes here. I can just view. If I go over to my budget and I set budgets, my chart of accounts window is open. So I could go back and I could, I guess, reduce this and close that window. But the whole idea is to be working in that chart of accounts. So this is more of a place to view it. So you would still create your account, and then you would go to the account information icon to actually set your budgets up and to view different things for that particular account that you're working on. So that is the new account information window. Any questions? No questions, Mary Jo. All right, Paul, it's all yours.
Okay. Well, I'm going to switch gears, and we're going to talk about recapping hours. And the reason we're going to talk about that in tabs first is because that's where it happens, but we're also going to show you something that we've done when you want to keep your attorneys out of tabs and you've got them entering their time in Practice Master. But first, where it all originated. Now, there's a report, and there's also a recap of hours button in fee entry. Now, keep in mind, I have my recap of hours report up on my main screen. That might not be the case for you. You may not have customized it in such a way that that button is there. And so it's also going to show up here under reports and transaction reports and recap of hours right here. But you can also get into it from that main tab if you've got it customized, that main tab customized to show that, and that's how I'm going to go in. Now, it's pretty straightforward. You specify a date range, and you have a report date. Keep in mind, this is sample data, and so it thinks today is 11/17/14. It's not. We all know that. But so therefore, this is defaulting to the month. That's where we've got our preset report format set. You may have it set differently. You select whether or not you want each timekeeper to start on a new page. But before we explain these things, let me just give you a kind of a glimpse of what this looks like so that we can use that as a point of reference as we talk about what this option, these various options mean. So this is the recap of hours report. Now we're looking at it currently for Michael Jensen. It's going to present a calendar-like view of the range in question. Remember, we told it to start each timekeeper on a new page. So as we get down to page 2, we're now looking at Paula Martin. And if I'll go back up to Michael Jensen and explain what we're looking at here, we've, of course, got the days, and each day has a number or a group of numbers. When it's told to do it this way, you can show billable and non-billable as separate totals, and then, of course, a total for the whole day. And so I can see that Michael Jensen worked 9.2 hours on that day and 5 and 8.45 and a total of 8.85 on that week. And then if we go down a little bit, we can see that his total for billable for the month was 65.3 hours, and for non-billable was 0.1. You may noticed, or may have noticed as we were hovering over these numbers, that if I hover, they turn yellow, and that means I can actually drill down. So if I say, the 12th, he logged 9.2, we click that, and there are the entries that comprise that 9.2. If I hit escape and get out, I can look here. Oh, I want to see what that 0.1 in non-billable was. There it is. It's a test. If you go here and look at this number, you're going to see both the billable, that test, plus all the plus the non-billable, the test, plus all the billable. And if you hover over here, you'll notice that these do not light up. It's only a particular day that you can go to. Very cool report. We have a lot of firms that print this without giving the functionality of being able to drill down, just because they want to see for each timekeeper who's entering time on what days. They're looking for pockets. What happened here? What happened here? Why isn't there any time on these days? Of course, if its system thinks it's 11/17, we know why there's not time on these days. But why isn't there time here or here or here? And why did he only have 5 hours here? Was something wrong? 3.25. Well, of course, the system thinks it's 11/17, so probably also thinks it's the middle of the day. Now, let's go back a little bit. Of course, we can start each timekeeper on a new page. If we don't do that, it just kind of wraps them together, makes it very difficult to read. So, of course, this is a very good checkbox. Lets you see specific days that have less than a certain number of hours. So if we do this again with that, we'll see that some of these days are going to be shaded to kind of outline the fact that, hey, these days, this hour right here and this hour, these are bad because they don't have the 8 hours that I specified. And we get to specify what the threshold is, or we can just uncheck that and just look at the report. We can also show just the daily totals. Remember I said if we've elected to show the non-billable time, if we do this here, it's not going to show us the non-billable versus the billable. It's just going to show the numbers for the day. So this day that's got the 0.1 in non-billable, we wouldn't really know that unless we really kind of got down to the transaction level to see that. So other options, zero activity and inactive. Usually you don't want those. I mean, who cares about the fact that somebody didn't have activity, or who cares about the fact that Bob hasn't been here for 4 years? We don't want to see him on this report. But zero activity might be appropriate if you want to see, hey, who doesn't have any time in the system at all? We still want them to show on the report, and we want to accentuate the fact that they don't have their time in at all. That's probably something that's used much more often than this inactive. Now, you can see this sort of information outside the scope of this report right here during fee entry. It's this button right here that looks like a calendar with a clock in front of it. It's the recap of hours button. So now the system thinks that I am Michael Jensen, I believe. Let's see. Yep. And so when I press this button here, it's going to pull up a calendar and let me jump from day to day. And as I select the day, these billable and non-billable totals over here change. Here's the day that had the non-billable time. And I can hit the view button and see that same view of the time. It's kind of like an internal recap of hours report that's meant to be used interactively while you're entering time. This is particularly useful, not so much from a management standpoint like the report is, but more appropriately from an attorney entering their own time sort of standpoint. Oh, I was here, let's say it's the end of the day on the 17th, and so the attorney pulls up his or her recap of hours screen, if you will, and sees that he's only logged 3.25 hours. Well, wait a minute, I was here since 9 and it's 5 o'clock now, what's wrong? And so you can double click on that day or hit the view button while we got highlighted, and he can look and say, oh, I forgot to put in the deposition that I spent all morning doing, and can tell instantly where these little gaps of time are. And that can be particularly useful when attorneys are entering their own time and want to make sure that they're getting everything. Of course, it's appropriate to be looking at the recap of hours for today. What am I missing? How much time have I got so far?
Paul, I'm just going to add real quick. Some firms don't like to open that up on that fee screen so that certain associates can see the partner's time or any of that.
Yes, I forgot to point out that you could conceivably change the timekeeper and look at somebody else's time. And I have a feeling I know where Mary Jo's going. Tell us where you're going.
You actually can lock that down in System Config. When you set up a user, you can assign timekeepers to that user. So let's say I have one firm that all the associates are only allowed to see their own time. So when you go into System Config, and Paul's going to take us there and go to the user, down at the bottom, there's this assign time. You got to scroll a little bit further down at the management rights there. All the way, you got to scroll your window down there.
No.
Down here. Yeah. This one, you'd have to check the box. Well, they're a manager.
Oh, they're a manager.
Yeah,
oh, I can go in that far. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's pull up Michael Jensen.
Okay. So what you're going to do is you're going to actually assign Tapestry Street Practice Master timekeepers to a user. So here's this guy. So he is, maybe we just want him to just see his time only. I would check that box for him. But now you have to remember that's all the time he's going to see. And this is across the board. He's only going to be able to see anything that is associated with him. So if you needed to get a report that prints off all the time on a case, and this guy needs to see all the time that's been billed on the case, he won't see that. He is only going to see his time when he does
won't see it on a report that he prints.
Right. Anything that he does, if he does a recap, he's only going to see his time, which you can, if he had left the range open, like Paul was running the recap of hours report. If he chooses another timekeeper on the fee window, he won't see anybody else's time. If he looks at the fee window down here at the bottom, he would only see his time. But this is also in other parts of the program, so you have to be careful when you're assigning timekeepers what you want to lock them out of.
Yep.
So that's that one. And then I just also wanted to point out on your other report, Paul, on the main recap of hours, you had shown how to run it wide open, but they can run that just by specifying a timekeeper in the box at the top.
Yeah.
So other than that,
I'm doing all right.
I think he's doing real good.
So if I wanted, I forgot to point out that if I wanted, I could have just put in 1 and 1 and seen just Michael Jensen, and hopefully that's the way it's going to work out. Yep, there we go, page 1 of 1, just Michael Jensen. Now, some firms have opted to use Practice Master, and they use it for all sorts of things. And one of the things firms will use Practice Master for is fee entry, because you can put fees into Practice Master from a variety of different places. You can put them in straight from the client. If we pull up Michael Larson and click on fees and hit new, we'd be adding a new fee for Michael Larson. We can put them in kind of like we do, pell-mell or ad hoc from within tabs. We can do that same thing from within here. But we can also convert things, and actually this is one of our topics, I believe, for next month's virtual user group meeting in Practice Master. oh, this is what we're talking about in half an hour at our next virtual user group meeting, is to convert things. So we could take a calendar item and convert it to a fee, or we can take email and we can, if I go to my drafts or my deleted items, we can take those and turn them into fees. So the thing is, how do you see your recap of hours from there? Well, it's pretty simple. We've created a report, and I'm going to get to it this way. You could put it out on the report menu, and we call it the fee recap report. And this report does allow you, just like the other, to specify, just Michael Jensen, for instance, specify a certain date range. Let's do 11/1/14. And the one thing you're not going to get that you'd get in tabs is to be able to drill down. So I can't drill down and actually edit a fee entry from here. I didn't show it, but when we were listing the time entries in the other reports, you could actually drill into one of them and actually edit it. But it gives you a nice worked, billed, rate, amount sort of listing of each transaction, a total. You can do it for a date range. It's not going to give you a calendar type report. It's more of a practice master type report. So that's yet another way to get a fee recap, and that's something that we've written but that we're happy to give to anybody. It's just a report that we can email you, and you can drop it in the right place, and it'll let you do that. So that's how to get a fee recap report, both from tabs and from Practice Master. From tabs directly from the time entry screen or the fee entry screen, or from the report itself. And in Practice Master here, it's something that we can put out on the menu as something that the timekeeper runs on daily, weekly, every couple days sort of basis. Another nice thing about this report here is that you could run it for all the timekeepers, and when you do that, more as a manager, you'll get totals for those timekeepers. So if we run it again, we'll see all of MLJ's time, but then as we get down here and get down to the bottom of MLJ, we have totals for him for that time period, and then we go into another PAM, Pamela Martin, and as we get to the end of hers, we have her totals up here. So from a management standpoint, you get the same sort of being able to look at all the timekeepers through this Practice Master report. We do have quite a few clients using that. Keep in mind that if you like that, you can request it from us, and we'll just email it to you with instructions on how to drop it into Practice Master. Now, next month at our Tabs 3 virtual user group meeting, we will be talking about, we're going to start our series on reports. We're going to go into all sorts of reports in over a period of time. So next month, I am going to talk about how to find the report you want, where to get a list of what reports might give you the information you want, how to get sample reports, how to look at reports from within help. That's going to be my topic, and Mary Jo is going to start the series off with a look at the cash receipts report. And just in case you're interested, in just a couple minutes at 2 o'clock Eastern Time, we're going to have our Practice Master virtual user group meeting where we're going to talk about the Form Designer. Mary Jo will show us how to move fields around on the screens in Practice Master. And I'm going to talk about, no, I'm sorry, that's next month's topics. This month, in just about a half hour, we're talking about Tabs 3 PM Sync. Mary Jo is going to talk about that. And I'm going to talk about the convert to fee settings that'll help you to capture that time that I was showing you very briefly. And just in case you're interested, next month in Practice Master virtual user group meeting, that's where Mary Jo is talking about the Form Designer, and I'm talking about the calendar email notifications for when the calendar items are added to attorneys' calendars or changed on attorneys' calendars. Now, I would be remiss to let you go without showing you the fact that you can go to a browser and go to Attorney Computer Systems, emphasis on the S at the end of systems.com, and when you get there, seem to be going slow today. When you get there, you can scroll down and see the water cooler virtual user group meetings for tabs, Practice Master, and World Docs. And clicking, for instance, on the Tabs 3 virtual user group meeting link will take you to the page that lists every meeting that we've ever recorded, plus registration information for the next available meeting, which happens to be this one right here. And as you scroll down, you'll be able to see recorded versions of everything we've ever recorded, and I think we've been doing this for, at least recording them for about 3.5 years. So there's a lot of content there. We also have our Coffee Pot webinars. Mary Jo has her eBytes video series of short little snippets of information, and we have our longer Paul and Mary Jo show where we take a topic and get really into it for about 15 or 20 minutes and talk about a certain thing. So that's all we have for today. Everybody have a good rest of the day, good rest of the month. We will see you next month. Have a good day. Bye-bye.